Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. This probably is going to be a longer video. I don't know. We're going to kind of go off the cuff. But today, to celebrate the 1,000 day campaign of this game being alive, I figured we would take a trip back down memory lane a bit for the older players that have been playing, and also to give some context to the newer players who've started in the last couple of months, 6 months, who were not aware of the extremely rough state that this game launched in. And so I thought today would just be a good history lesson, and if you want to listen to it, then great, and if you don't, well, then you don't have to, because it's the internet and you can go find another YouTube video of cats or something that you can watch. But I'm not quite sure how I'm going to format this yet. Whether or not I just do bullet points and just kind of click around in the screen to show you, what has changed or not, or if I try and pull up some old videos of my channel that, from the dates that those things were updated. I don't really know yet, so bear with me. It's going to be a jumbled mess, I'm sure, but maybe people like to see me struggle a little bit. But, yeah, let's get started. All right, to start off, going back to the very, very beginning, 9/7 of 2021, announcement of the game being launched. And I mean, I didn't have my eye on the game originally when it first got announced. I didn't really know until much later on towards actual release. This was, September. Uh, but the game actually came out on October 28th of 2021. Now, we're at 1,000 days. Some people will be at 999 and be like, but I've logged in every day. Well, what happened is that this game came out at like 8 p.m. Pacific time, and the game for me in North America resets at 4 a.m. Pacific time for me. But they didn't count that first like 8 hours the game was live. So from 8 p.m. on the 28th to 4 a.m. on the 30th, technically, was all counted as day one of, officially, but unofficially it did have a reset in there. So if you logged in every day but you didn't get it in that like 7 hour time frame between game release and reset, daily reset, then you didn't get that whole extra day of time. So that's why when I say day zero, it was because it was like the first 7 hours of launch before official reset, where the official day one, full day one started of the game. So that, just a bit of context for you in case you're ever confused about that. But moving on, I have a number of bullet points that I wanted to talk about. So October 28th, game release, day zero. November 1st was the first meta banner release, Xion and Dark Diablo. So we've got Protector. Secretary Xion was the very first Protector to ever be part of like a, hey, I'm brand new. Where are you? There you are. Where are you? And if we take a look at her kit, changes greens to blues and everybody gets 25% ult gauge. Yeah, things have come quite a ways since then, because now we have paragraphs, and we have paragraphs up here, and we have paragraphs in the traits, and she has a valor trait now too. But she was the very first Protector, and she came alongside Dark Diablo 1.0, and I say that 1.0 because we have like 4 iterations of Dark Diablo. We got to differentiate them somehow. This guy right here. They came on the first banner, which started on the 1st. So for a couple of days, we only had like the Tempest banner to summon on, and that's about it. Alongside all the OG characters, Windmillum, Light Gazel, Earth Trainee, Windhawkrow, all of those characters. But they were the first banner to release, and that was the only meta where we had 4 individual new banners: Xion Diablo, Dark Veldora, Dark Millum, part of the big 3, still a staple on teams to this day as a support slot, and then Dark Rimuru. And after that, they went to the whole like 2 and then 2 other side banners. So next month was Shuna Valentine, Maid Rimuru, and then Wind Veldora. And then they had a couple bait banners sprinkled in, but this was the only time. And this is what really turned people off, turned some of the big YouTubers off of this game, because they had a fuck ton of banners. The game was in a horrible, buggy release state. Things crashed all the time for clicking any random button, and it was legitimately awful for the first like 2 months before they patched a whole bunch of it. And even then, even after those patches, uh, I wouldn't say it was perfect by any means, and it's still not perfect, right? It still crashes for unknown reasons for people to this day. But if you can just imagine the crashes multiplied by like 20, that's what the original state of the game release was. All right, next up, November 23rd, 2021, my first slime video got uploaded, and it is this one right here. Can we max out Dark Milim? Milim being one of my favorite characters in the game, or just in slime in general, and she's at 84 right now. This is long before EX tickets. This is when I was still playing on my phone and using an Elgato to capture it. Yeah, I mean, we got fairly lucky for this for these summons, but uh November 23rd, 2021. 1,300 views though. It's kind of nice. But yeah, this is my first uploaded video, so quite a ways after the game had started, because Milim came out on November 15th, so not quite a month after game release. I did not record any of my Xion Diablo summons. I just got one Diablo at first multi and dipped. I did not record or notate my summons for Dark Veldora, and then 200 pity for 3 copies of Dark Milim. Okay, yeah, cool. But this was my very first video for the game, and look where we are now. The next milestone. Not a great milestone. December 7th. Maid Rimuru came out. My most despised and hated unit. Why? Because I didn't like him. I didn't like his kit. Alright? The HP increase, the defense, the guard. This was the second meta of the game. He left a bad taste in my mouth, and I've just never liked him since. And now it's become the meme of the channel of me pulling Maid Rimurus, which thankfully doesn't happen that often. Knock on wood. But yeah. December 7th, 2021. Made for the holidays. Master of Maids Rimuru Tempest comes out, and the meme was born. So that is another big time milestone for this game. For me, at least. Not for the game itself, but for me personally. Alright, the next milestone. Just a few days later, on the 10th of December, or well, the 9th of December, is when we got the preview for it, but the 10th is when it started. Heroes Jubilee, the very first iteration of Heroes Jubilee, was announced and went into the game the day after. Jubilee, as it was previously, was a bit different. It was quite a bit different because you were meant to do overkill damage. So, how the current Jubilee that just ended, they have unlimited HP bars and it's just total damage dealt throughout the entirety of the fight. Yeah, that's not how it was for the first, I think, 7, 8, almost a year or something like that. It used to be they had an actual HP bar and you had to get them down to the tiniest sliver of HP and then nuke, and it would count all the damage you do after the fact. So kind of like how Ranked Valor Cup is graded on overkill damage, it would just apply that kind of thing to Heroes Jubilee, and so you wouldn't be doing 20 million damage, to the bosses. And it was also single target. The entire game at this point was focused on single target nukes. So if an AoE character came out, they were either a support character or they were trash. Absolute trash, because Heroes Jubilee was exclusively single target nukes for big time single target overkill damage. So, man, AoEs have come a long way since the introduction of this game, and for the first year, Heroes Jubilee did not give a shit about them at all. And the scoring obviously was very different. And the team builds obviously were very different because we only had 2 metas to go off of, right? Our highest damaging character was Octogram Milim, who hadn't released at the time. She was coming a few days later. Where's that document? Octogram Milim, purchasable on December 27th, because that was the first time that anyone had 100 Octogram emblems to actually buy someone. And then, of course, the day she releases, we also get a preview saying, oh, hi, by the way, Octogram Ramaras is coming tomorrow. So it's like, oh, okay, great. And on top of that, Octogram Milim got her stats nerfed. I'm going to try and find that actually really quickly. Yeah, here we go. The notes inform me that Millen, the Proud Dragon Demon Lord, will have some of her status attributes adjusted on 1222. The details will be below, but essentially her attack was too high. Her attack was too high. 3709 at max level. They dropped it down by 200 points, but they did buff her HP and they did buff her defense a bit. This is realistically the only time they have pre-nerfed a character before release, which is weird because Octogram Guy was announced, back when the game was first launched as, look at these original outfits, don't they look so cool? They'll be 100% free to play. You just have to play the game and get the in-game currency to get them, but it requires no money whatsoever. And we're like, oh sweet, yeah, Millum looks great. Space Millum. I love Space Millum's outfit, personally. This is not talking for the video, that's just me liking Space Millum. And then we're like, oh, they nerfed her. Because she was a single target damaging unit. And she had the highest stats, even with this nerf. She had the highest attack stat in the game. So it's like another 200 and something points to it would have been really nice. But they didn't quite get there, did they? Also, I know we skipped over it, but Crucible came out on December 17th. Crucible is an event geared towards newer players to give them a tower climb event, something to do, and it did come out in waves, right? It wasn't just 100 stages immediately on December 17th. It was the first, 30 stages or something like that, and then they would release in packs of 10 or 15 or something like that until we hit 100, and then once we hit 100, they were like, hey, no more Crucible. No more. You get no more. And, Crucible at this point in time is a joke. 241k HP with 3000 defense is maybe difficult for a brand spanking new player, but anyone who's put a medium amount of time into this will clear this in 2-3 turns. So, yeah, I wish they would refresh it or update it, give us another 100 stages. I can't imagine it would be all that difficult. But it is what it is. All right, we're already at 12 minutes. We got to speed this up a little bit. December 27th, no, January 13th, EX stages added to Conquest, which is kind of a funny thing because if you go check Conquest right now, yeah, there are no EX stages. Funny how that works, right? When the game first released, Master Conquest was the most difficult thing. Space Millum Master Conquest specifically was the hardest event in the game. And then, a couple months later, they added EX stages and made her, double strong. And you were not able to stun EX Conquest. You can stun Master, right? She doesn't have any stun resistance. EX Conquest you could no longer stun, so you couldn't use, at the time, Space 3-star Alice to get that 30% stun rate on Millum. What a rough time. But yeah, and then a couple years later they took it away because they realized that, oh yeah, stunning is kind of important now. So they removed the unstunnable stages and dropped the rewards down into Master. So yeah, that's certainly something. February 8th, the Hot Spring building was added in town. And this is probably one of the most impactful buildings that has ever released. Population buildings aside, tower buildings aside, fun little things, trophies aside, the Hot Spring, where you can get, a whole bunch of free stamina every single day, is very important. And it gets upgraded, through the bamboo forest area. And now I think Millum gives you 190 stamina or something like that. It's something crazy for free every day. That's really nice. It was a very welcome thing because we didn't have a lot of potions and a lot of stamina, and my cap certainly at that time was not 133, so this is a very welcome thing. February 23rd, the ability to check your back line skills. Give me a minute. All right, so this is now you click skills and it shows you the front line and it shows you the back line. Oh my god, you want to see what it was like back then? It looked like this. So Octogram Guy, our highest damaging character. Hakuro's here. All right, this is the switch button. That's the switch character screen. Not this. Not this that shows you the costs of the skills and what skills they are, and you can click on them and read them. No, none of that. You got the people and their HP bars and their rear guard, and you could select them in this little list area thing. And if you click the actual skills, it doesn't pull up. So, right, we click skill. There's no side menu now where you can see the other character's skills and their costs. It's just your front line, and that is it. So when they added the ability to see all this, it was so nice because, man, swapping them out, I don't remember what cost they were. Half the time, I don't remember what they did because this was just a few months into the game. And this was one of the most impactful quality of life changes they've ever done. All right, next. Probably the biggest blunder this game has ever done. March 29th, 2022, Octogram Guy came out and actually broke the game. Broke the game so much that it went into emergency maintenance. Under emergency maintenance. And this didn't last for this amount of time. It lasted for about 7-8 hours or something like that. And the reason was because, normally for Milim and for all the Octogram characters, you buy the shards. Oh, I'm still in this fight. You buy the shards from the Octogram shop. They come in packs of 5, and it takes 5 to awaken an Octogram character. Yeah, that's standard. However, Guy didn't quite work like that because, let's see. Yeah, Guy only took 1. Guy took 1. So you bought 1 pack of those shards and you had him at level 100. And that was the level cap at the time. Only level 100. There was no 120 in this game yet. So you bought 1 of the Octogram packs and you had a maxed out Octogram Guy. And that obviously was not intentional. They shut the game down. We were ready to showcase, we were ready to do some stuff, and the game was like, boop, you're done. You're done. So, yeah, they had to make a whole bunch of things. There's a problem related to the replacement of the Hachobashi emblem. Google Translate, right? We are working toward the end of maintenance today. We will let you know. So, yeah, Octogram Guy shut the game down for hours. Literal hours. And what did they give us in compensation? They gave us everything required to get a character from level 1 to level 100, I believe. Skill enhancements and all. They took away Octogram Guy from people's boxes and made you repurchase him. And they fixed the shard thing to make it so you needed, 25 like everything else. I'm pretty sure someone actually got fired for that. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest blunders the game has ever done. More recently was the Octogram Lumi thing where she was stacking the AoE damage infinitely and then they capped her at 30%. That's not nearly as bad, but they did refund us the cost of her skill enhancements, which I guess is nice. I kind of wish she had still stacked infinitely, but it wasn't as bad as getting a free Octogram character level 100 for 170 emblems, right? Because you still had to buy them first. Alongside Octogram Guy breaking the game, they also dropped the Tower of Isis and Gear Awakening for the first time. So Loop Loop, Tower of Isis, the stages. Obviously, we also did not get all, 55 floors at once. I think we got like 15 or something at the time. But this is the first time we got Loop Loop. This is the first time we saw, the little, I wouldn't say roguelite, but certainly this kind of format of game. All the chests, all the free rewards, and more importantly, the Gear Awakening function was now a thing. And man, I tell you, reforging gear was a fucking hassle back then. Awakening, 1 stars to 6 stars, getting these purple stars on the gear. Forever, we just had, 6-star swords, jackets, weapons, everything like that, accessories. And now we've got Awakened 6-star stuff, Super Awakening, as I like to call it from my Grand Cross days, right? It introduced, another pretty decent size level of power creep because the stats just jumped up immensely. Because if we look at a 419 attack for that light sword versus what is it now? What is it? 659 for that 4-star Awakened. If we go all the way up to 6-star, it's 739. So not quite double the attack power, but very close. And, plus all the other stats you're getting from the jackets and the HP stuff. That was pretty big at the time. All right, and just a couple days later, April 1st, 2022, our first April Fools, and we got the quote-unquote Pac-Man collab. Now, that might be quite shocking for a lot of people. If we go to Profile, and we go to the Gallery, we can actually see our special little thing that we got for that, the image that we got for the Pac-Man collab. And a little further. There we go. Pac-Man was in the game. What did it give us? Well, it gave us a special building in Tempest that you could build that gave population, and it had a daily, I think, 3-time predator battle, special predator battle against the ghosts, essentially. And let me try and find it. And we had a special loading screen. Oh, no, it was a login screen. Here we go. So after we get through this, all right, yeah, the little 8-bit Milim, Rimuru, Shuna, Shihan, and Benimaru getting chased by ghosts. Yeah, this was a real thing. Pac-Man collab on now, and you could run through town as Pac-Man, I believe. So here, yeah, here's the Predator battle versus the ghosts. And you could run around as Pac-Man in Tempest. That was the Pac-Man collab. So that was our first quote-unquote collab. Right? It just didn't give us any collab characters. But that was April Fools of 2022. All right, next up, the end of April 24th was the half anniversary that introduced the Masked Hero for the first time, and still for the only time, a unit with the Rewind ability. She's the only one. And I think she will continue to be the only one until the next half anniversary when we get another Masked Hero, because that's the only time we get Masked Heroes. She came with Space Milim, still one of my most favorite Milims in the game, and at the time she was the new highest single damaging character to release because she had the Drago effect, which has now made a comeback with Exalted Champion Velzard and her protection skill. This Milim was very, very powerful. And it was the first time that space had ever been used as part of a meta, because, fun fact, going back to the spreadsheet, they did not used to do forces, right? So, we got Fire Lumi, Earth Elmesia, Earth Rimuru. Last month we got Light Hinata, Fire Shizu, Dark Diablo. They didn't used to do it like that. They weren't relegated to forces. It was relegated to elements. So for November, when the game released, all these characters were dark. And then the next month, all wind, all fire, all light, all water, so forth and so forth. Space was the first time it had ever been touched, and it was in a horrible state because it had gone 6 months without getting any new units because it only get these elements. So we were stuck with the OG space units like Space Rimuru for a long, long time. So space was awful. And then we got a whole month of space characters, and when we got this stupid Dark Diablo and Rimuru. I don't understand why they did that. But then, Light 2.0 came out, because this is the second time that an entire month had Light characters featured, because the first time was Valentine's Day for 2022, and then Light came up again May and June. So that's, when I say Light 2.0, Wind 2.0, Light 3.0, because it was featured for New Year's of 2023, that's what I mean by those 3.0s, 2.0s, because it was the third time that a full light team had been featured. And then once Space 3.0 hit and we went into forces, then we got rid of the whole monikers of numbers, right? All right, next up, May 30th. A little over a month later, we got the EX ability boards, which just added a whole new level of extra stats. Back then, it was based on how many space characters or light characters you had on the team, and now it's dependent on how many physical or magic characters you have. And then the buffs, obviously, she's got 4% crit damage. These have been doubled essentially now, so now it's 2% crit damage per box, so 8%, pierce power, synergy power. It's always been specifically with another unit in the slot. And, this was just a little bit extra additional buff alongside the 3% boost from the same attribute support slots. More stats. So we got, the weapon enhancements and gear enhancements. We got the EX ability boards. This was also the first time we got a stacking, blue stacking meta with Space Veldora Protector. And you can see it's not really evolved that much since its inception in the half anniversary, but what are you going to do? Next up, June 29th, another month later, Octogram Lumi comes out, and still to this day, one of the best Octogram units ever. Ever. You know, Octogram Guy, when he came out back in March 29th, nothing was able to be stunned, right? They hadn't removed the EX Conquest from the game. Tempered Edges were not able to be stunned until much later on. And Octogram Guy just released in a really, really bad spot of the game because he was useless. He was an AoE character where AoEs were not focused on. He was a stun character where nothing could be stunned. And he had an orb change, which didn't really work that well with the fire teams at the time. So he came out poor. And he's now evolved into a very good, one of the best characters to get from the Octogram shop for newer players right now, because now things are stunnable. And, you know, AoE units are looked upon more favorably. Octogram Lumi, she was another AoE character, and even before her skill fusions, she had a really good trait. You know, the turn 1, 2, and 3 protection gauge, incredible. She, you know, her first skill was stacking up to 60% ult damage, which even at the time was great. Another 60% on top of the temporary buffs that we're getting. No one else has really done that. So Lumi, very good when she came out, still very good to this day, even without her other skill fusions. Like, she's still a fairly good support unit. Not as good, but definitely still runnable if she's your next best support slot option. So she was a big-time game changer for a lot of teams back in the day. August 28th, my birthday in 2022, we got the max skill enhance and the auto reforge. So remember earlier in the video I said that reforging gear sucked dick when it first came out, and that's because if I wanted to reforge this use all button wasn't here. So we had to just sit here, do this, and hit reforge one at a time. And if you didn't get the first time, you got the second time, and you do it over and over and over and over. And it could, you know, some of these things takes 38 times if you get really, really unlucky. It could take 4 if you get lucky, or 1. But if you get unlucky, you could sit here for like 20 minutes trying to reforge one by one until you get that massive success. And you can see we're only 2 points away now from the max, but let's find out how many more times it's going to take if we hit the use all function now. And we would have sat here reforging 14 more times individually to get that. Not now, because we have this max button, and we have that max reforge ability. The same way with the skill enhancements. I don't, probably the 3 stars do, huh? Yeah, you. So if we go to this, there was no max option. You just had to select it one by one. This was not nearly as impactful. It still did save time, which I'm grateful for. But if you wanted to use like some of these older ones, you just sit here and do this the entire time, like you're doing Bond XP, right? And instead of doing 140 like that, you would just hit max and do boom. You're good. So that was a nice quality of life update for my birthday. Moving on, October 28th, we had the first anniversary, Dark Milim, Dark Veldora, Dark Rimuru, Grand Admiral Diablo. The first time we ever got the Invite a Friend campaign. God help whoever thought of that and thought it was a good idea, because I want to punch you in the face. First time we got Charms introduced with Valor Cup and the Ingrassia trade function. Charms are a pretty big thing in the game now, because they can give you just randomly powerful buffs, and it's not super huge, but it does make an impact when you're trying to run teams. Like, you know, having an extra 20% protection gauge on blues every single turn for 8 turns, that's important. Having a heal charm for Valor Cup, very important. Having, you know, extra skill points on oranges, or extra protection gauge on oranges, extra ult damage, extra ult, just free 16% ult gauge on a character. These were very, very impactful things, and they haven't really added any new charms since the inception on the first anniversary, which I think is a mistake. I think we should continue to get new charms as the game progresses. But when it came out, these were confusing, yes, and they still can be confusing to newer players, but it does make a difference when you're team building. At the end of the first anniversary, right before the start of the next meta, we got the monthly pass, the Koban shop. And, again, if you are inclined to spend any small amount of money, I really highly suggest you get the monthly pass and you get both options. It's like $35, $38 or something for US people. And the value for it is incredible. You get shards, you get hammers, you get, up to 4 multis on a meta, on, any one given meta. Your daily missions get enhanced with extra rewards. You get half construction times, like $35 in a gacha game for the amount of stuff you get from that monthly pass is actually a goddamn steal. And it's the one, like, good paid thing I can actually proclaim about this game is, like, it gives you a lot for $35. There are a lot of battle passes out there that are more and give you much less. So, just, putting that out there. It is a good thing for the shop, for people who want to spend money. December 11th, Ranked Valor Cup comes out. So Valor Cup was originally introduced October 28th. We got our first iteration of Ranked in December. And, yeah. Ranked is, it's not great. The rewards are shit, and they've only updated it once, and they've added ingots with the new guild functionality for the 2.5 anniversary down here. And that's it. All the other rewards are shit. And they're just not going to update it because it's been, almost 2 years, and they've given us one new thing. So I'm not a big fan of Ranked Valor. I know some people do like Ranked Valor. Sure, if I'm going to play something and invest that kind of time into it, which thank God they cut down the fights from 40 to 20, I want it to give something that I can actually friggin' use. January 30th, our first beatdown battle came with the Space 3.0 meta in my low spending mode for my New Year's resolution, right? Space 3.0 was the last of the element metas before you switched to forces, but we got a beatdown battle for Space 3.0, which has never returned, ever. Never, ever has returned. Because we can get the free-to-play, free-to-play Sufia from the flashback shop, so there's no reason for them to bring it back, except I want to have a space AoE stage. That's slightly difficult, but first beatdown battle, and then every single meta after that has had a beatdown battle associated, many of which have just never come back, never returned, and it just irritates me to this day. February 27th, with Fount of Wisdom was the first EX meta, and came with it the forces. So Fount of Wisdom, World of Fantasy, Warrior's Mind, everything after that. We moved away from the element metas every month to a number of different elements per month, but different units attached to them. And I think that's much better for the game overall, because it means that, for 6 months at a time, Dark isn't shit on, or Fire isn't, well, Fire is still bad. But, it's not, we're waiting 7 months to get another space unit to come out. Like, that's not really the case anymore. It's still limiting because they're only attached to certain teams, but I think this is a little bit more healthy for the game. Maybe the way they went around building the game out of it is debatable. Heavily super limiting stages and never having them return is not the way I would have gone about this, but hey, it came out. April 27th was the 1.5 anniversary. Now we're getting into more recent quote-unquote events, so I'm not going to touch mostly a lot on all this, but we got alt swapping in the part 1 of the first anniversary. Alt swapping now is a huge, huge important thing to pretty much every single team. And every single team at this point pretty much has an alt swapper of some way, shape, or form. We've got Overlord Shizu, we've got Blanc, we've got the Light Hero, who was the first one to do it. She was the one that introduced alt swapping. Warrior's Mind Rimuru, we've got free-to-play units that do it now. Tempest Fleet Gobta, Rieger, Glenda, wherever she is down here. They do alt swapping, and it's such an integral part of team building now that you need an alt swapper on any team, at least to make it run super efficiently. You're going to want an alt swapper. So that, I think, was a very good thing to bring. Our first true quote-unquote collab was the Konosuba collab on June 29th. It was a weird half meta. It was only around for 2 weeks, right? June 29th to July 19th. And then we had a very, very long month and a half of summer memories. Konosuba at the time was very good. Cosma, unfortunately, was terrible. His buff is not good. It's kind of like the same as Shao-Tier, and how she's looked upon with her buff is not really that great. But Shao-Tier's buff is at least better than Cosma's. But that was our first true collab. And then moving down the second anniversary, we had the introduction of the synergy buff and the rainbow unity orbs, plus the passive protector buffs, where the protectors do something every turn that you don't have to worry about. It just happens. So for Coleus Lumi, it was raising your skill cap by 50 points. Previously, the stacking protectors, every time you use them, you would get a 40-point cap increase. So for like Water Millum, that's what she would do. Water attack, blue gauge increase, and then skill cap increase by 40 up to 999. Now it's 50, but it's once a turn. So technically, using these older protectors, you could get more points than what we can now with how it's now set up. But by having them with that third slot of the effect being the raise, it takes away from the other damage output. Because now you have, Renard, who is passively giving it to you while also double buffing, while also giving you that extra skill point increase on blues. So that's kind of the offset that we received. And then, the burst protectors, 30 points every turn. That's very, very nice, very, very impactful. It helps teams a lot. So I think this was a good thing. And then a month later, we got the Idolmaster collab, the Invincible, literally Invincible. And while it is heavily limited and they're never coming back, it's a good team, right? And then January 25th, we got the Overlord collab. April 25th, we got the 2.5 anniversary, and we got guilds, unions, whatever you want to call it. So, that's a relatively short history lesson for you. I know this video is like 30-something minutes long, so if you're still here, then thank you. Let me know if you're a longer time player, if I've missed anything else that you would consider huge and interesting. I know that there's a lot of things taken away. I didn't look to see when they took away EX Conquest stages. I know we used to have 2 Jubilees every month traditionally, Jubilee Blitz, Jubilee Catalyst. It went from, the beta Jubilee, right, into splitting it up into 2 a month, and they took away Blitz without any warning, and then it comes back randomly every so often now. Awakening trials were a thing where they'd give us, free dupes of a little 3-star character, and it would denote what the next incoming element for the meta was, but they stopped that right before the first Annie as well. There are a number of things, but I thought these were the major highlights. But if you have anything else you want to talk about, let me know in the comments. But thank you for taking this history lesson with me. That's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.